Hey everyone. So, I guess the biggest thing with this episode is that Hao is done fucking around, as the whole world is now more or less aware of the island's existence. And the most ironic twist of all, like the very satellite the Xbox used to try and kill Hao, and the one that has kind of like brought down the whole world down upon Shaman society now, and exposing them in the way this has kind of also given Hal the perfect stage with with every corner of the world being even remotely aware of the island's existence and why it exists. It puts all eyes on Hal and his intent to destroy humanity, but even more so, it now puts on eyes on the shaman as a whole, because like we've what's going on now is we've reached the the pinnacle tipping point where it doesn't even matter if Hao is defeated or not. What happens beyond this point will dictate the course of history in the world and its perception. Like, it's it's funny to say, but the patch tribe have really brought this upon themselves. Like, after thousands of years without recognizing like the practices of the shaman fight, with how outdated and even barbaric they are, or even without realizing, or just in general remaining in such secrecy, it's only natural this world would eventually all come crashing down upon learning of such upon learning upon of what goes on with these shaman fights. Like, it's only natural that this would and with it's only natural this would all come crashing down. And with the reintroduction of Manta's father into this, it's more with this. It definitely puts a human face to things, and it puts Manta himself in a position to play a pivotal role at this juncture, where humanity can, where it shows that where like Manta's role as just Yo's friend shows that humanity can exist alongside Shaman, but it needs to come with patience, and it needs to come with a certain amount of willingness to kind of work towards it. Um, and yeah, just in general, this is one of those episodes where it feels like so many pieces that were placed on the board throughout the story are starting to come together more fluently, honestly, and but in a way that also makes me kind of just like it's makes you just worried of what's going to happen next. um, with that said, let's talk about the fight between Hao and Anna in this episode, because while it is a very because while the fight itself has yet to conclude, it is still interesting to compare and contrast how their fight played out in the original anime, to compared to how it's playing out here. Because in the original anime, how overpowered Anna full stop at every turn, and while more or less still is the case here, the reboot does a lot more to show Anna being able to hold her own against Hao, despite what the overwhelming strength he does possess. And both have very different intents. I think the original anime showed what an overwhelming force of nature Hao is, but also comes with the effect of wondering just how the hell are our heroes even going to beat him. Whereas with the reboot, while there still is that force of nature quality to Hao's power, we basically also see that he can be countered, he can be defeated, and by virtue, but in a way where it doesn't discredit him as a threat either, and by virtue of that, I like how this feels like a payoff towards Anna and her powers having more credence in the story, because again, in the original anime, like, Anna herself and her powers ultimately didn't make all that much of a difference. In fact, if I distinctly remember how not only shrugging off everything she had done against him, but destroying her beads as well. Whereas the source of her power, whereas while we know whereas here, like, even though the fight is yet to end, and we more or less know it kind of has to end with a similar initial result, the fight with Hao and Anna here does feel like Hao is being forced to exert a little bit more power in order to fight her back. Like it isn't it isn't discrediting Hao, but it isn't saying he's a total monster and that he can't be fought against either. Like Anna is putting up a legitimate fight, whereas before I don't think Anna really even was shown to even put up all that much of a fight. Like it was all. In a lot of ways, the original anime, it's showing the original anime was a lot of like the Yo show, basically. Like Yo was the end-all, be-all solution to everything, but here we are seeing that Anna does have something to bring to the table with in how to fight back against Hao. Now I do want to take a moment in this episode to talk about the facial art animation. Whatever you want to call it, like within the episode, or more specifically with one of the patch tribe, Namari, because in the manga, Namari's reactions and responses to Yo's power were very detailed and expressive, but here they just felt very like blank, standard, and not very emotional, honestly. And I don't get that. Like, I didn't get the same intensity of fear Namari was feeling in the manga that I did here. And yes, I know I'm probably nitpicking, but anime is still a very visual medium, and how you portray emotions can affect how you perceive a moment. And so, like, it is a bit of a failing on the anime's part that they couldn't get the Namari's emotional reactions correctly. Moving beyond that, though, the other big thing with this episode is we see Lyserg like working towards overcoming his trial, and yeah, honestly, his story arc really is the simplest out of all the characters, which is to not always equate the love for his family with his vengeance against Hao, and within the same breath, and like him working to overcome that. But I do admit, ultimately, just forcing Lyserg into the situation where he's forced to overcome the pretty much two sides of that same coin, basically. It is making him feel like a more complete character. The road to get to this point, I still maintain, is a little rocky, but I understand the path more as well. But it does lay more of the foundation for how we'll ultimately end up, how he himself will end up controlling the Spirit of Fire, I think. Now, for the most part, the rest of the episode is pretty much focused on our main heroes returning from hell, but within a couple moments definitely stood out. For example, Yo's fight against the demon, you can tell how much he has matured, and his resolve also has a more solid foundation where like, yeah, if you're someone who isn't intentionally hurting people, he'll try and help you or push you aside so you don't end up getting hurt yourself. But when faced against that person who will legitimately do him harm, who doesn't intend to actually kill him or the people he cares about, when faced with that situation, Yo does in fact he has resolved himself to like fight those people full force on, even if it might conflict with who he is as a person. And he will resolve to stop you in those moments, showing again he has committed himself to the fight, but again in a way where he himself, where he feels it doesn't betray who he is as a character. But along with that, you can also tell like his spiritual perception has also improved, as when he like returned from death, he only knew immediately that Sati was the one who needed to be saved, not just because he wanted her to, but because Sati was an important person, was a key person that was going to be important later. But he also knew that Anna was in danger, and he knew he needed to save her right out of the gate. So yeah, so we see that Yo has a much greater spiritual perception now. But my favorite was Ren, where in this episode he was all prepared and ready to fight back against Team Flower. But when June said now isn't the right time, and actually listen to her, it not only shows it not only does show and carry over just how much Ren has matured and not grown, but through this all, Ren's character has learned to prioritize in the moment. There are some fights, and that there are some fights that are more important than others. So it's like really nice to see on Ren's part. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. From on Twitter, it's Crunchyroll. Be sure to notification bell, hit the subscribe button, and just share the video around, guys. Dark Knight Dune, signing off. Later, everyone.